from WBBZ-TV Sports. It's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ. It is week 3 here at Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport, New York. And Sue, we've had an interesting first 2 weeks. We had Chuck Jagodzinski sweep his way through week 1, and then we had week 2 where we had a couple of different winners. And I think even Tim Finken, who's our returning winner, would say he bowled okay, but he took advantage of a couple of struggles by his opponents, which is all part of this sport.
Absolutely. Transition is one of the things that all the bowlers have to face, and in this case I think it's been pretty glaring how it's made changes to the people who've been bowling well. Yep,
and I know Tim knows he'll have to bowl really well this week because we've got a good lineup of bowlers featuring Tyler Molina, Pat Brick, and Rob Stefani.
Absolutely, and there again, we brought up the lefties when we first started out the month here, and it really has boiled down to that. It's the left-handers and how they adjust to everything. So, you know, we got a talented group.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I know you are ready for anything and any unpredictability that we may have. That's what you're good at.
Yes, and I'm so happy to be back. You know, I'm so excited for what's to come, and I'm just excited.
She's speechless. We made Janelle speechless. She's so excited. We hope you're excited. We are. Going to be another good week of Beat the Champ up here in Lockport, so let's get rolling. So it's Tim versus Tyler, Finken versus Molina in the first match of the day here at Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport. Tim coming in on the 2-match winning streak, his first 2 wins here on Beat the Champ against Tyler Molina, who brings 14 wins here on the show. We'll tell you a little more about Tyler when he comes up, but Tim Finken, like we said, it's not that he hasn't bowled well, but I think even he would tell you 202 and 227 aren't usually enough to win at this level, but he's taken advantage of a couple of opponents who had the wheels come off a bit.
Well, you know, it's all relevant, and sometimes 202 is a good score, and sometimes it's a terrible score, depending on what you're bowling on.
Right.
And in this case, they were both bowling on the same condition, and in this case, 202 is a good score.
So here's Tyler Molina making his 10th appearance here on Beat the Champ. First appearance, actually, in a while. We haven't seen Tyler since the summertime up at Manor 2 Lanes, where he bowled and lost to Chuck Jagodzinski, but 14 wins and 5 losses, one of the best winning percentages we have of any of our Beat the Champ bowlers. And just couldn't get that 7-pin to drop. His 14 wins are 5th on our list of victories by any of the bowlers here on the show. So, and Tyler has benefited from 2 individual 6-match winning streaks to get to those 14 wins. He has been a streaky bowler. When he's on, he wins a lot, and that's what makes him good.
Well, I think his ball speed has a lot to do with how he handles transition. And transition is such a big word for us, and we use it all the time. But when you can overpower a lane like that, it's just less to deal with as far as the lanes changing.
Yep.
So I think that could be a lot of the reason why he's streaky like that.
And he's just an outstanding bowler, one of the great young bowlers. Not so young. I feel like we've had him on the show so long since he was just in college. Now he's 27 years old. He's still not certainly anything beyond young, but we've kind of seen him develop. Not only in the show, I know everybody in this community has seen him develop as one of the best guys in town.
He didn't write it down, but I think he got married or had a baby. We have to ask him.
He did get married, and we were talking a little before the show started taping about he bought his first house, so he said that's occupied a lot of. I said, how come we haven't had you on the show since the summer? And he kind of rattled off all the things we all rattle off of. I bought a new house and needed this, and this. So he's been a little occupied with all of that. We'll have to find out about whether there's new additions to the Molina family or not. I hope you didn't speak out of turn there. No, okay.
Nope, not yet,
he
not
gave
yet.
us the look like he gave. Sue's got you with kids already, and she's not wasting any time for you. So. Okay, so we're a little premature on that one.
We love the interactive
right now,
Beat the
all
Champ.
focus is on getting the house all fixed up. So.
Now that is concentration right there.
Yeah, you just added to his family, and he was able to shake that off. And
I knew something
still pull
happened.
off the
I knew
spare,
something happened.
so. So you got to be careful.
Marriage is life-changing.
Got to be careful what you say on the show. So, right, nobody knows that better than Brad Angelo, who joins us here for this episode of the show. And always good to have Brad and his insights from here at Brad Angelo Lanes. And Tim Finken, a little struggle there with the 7-pin. So, see, right? These are all the lessons you got to learn about being on TV. You better confirm your information.
I'm still stuck on children. I was pretty impressed with Tyler's performance on that 7-pin. I mean, after thinking about, wait a minute, do I have any? I can't even believe that he even mentioned that. How am I going to knock this pin over? And he made it like the true champion. So,
yep, see, the ability to block out anything and everything.
I knew something happened. Either he got married or had children or something.
It was something.
It was marriage.
All right, well, good. So as Janelle mans the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, we'll get back to bowling and not adding to Tyler Molina's family. Good strike in the third frame there for Tim Finken, trying to get a third win in a row.
He just wants to add some cash to his family,
That's
so we'll
right.
work on that.
That's right. So we were talking a little bit, Brad, about the unusual show we had last week, where in the first week, Jagosinski put up big scores, rolled his way through. Last week, the guys struggled a lot, and the scores weren't nearly as high, and Tim will be the first to tell you he wins a 202 and a 227, and maybe he never thought that would happen, but what did you sense changed here on your lanes here in show number 2?
Well, Sue mentioned it. The very word transition, all that means is oil's moving. And as oil's moving, what are your choices? How are you going to deal with it? What sort of transitional moves do you have? What can you do physically? Can you change ball speeds? Can you change launch angles? Can you change grip pressures? Change bowling balls? All kinds of different things to be able to make that ball, when it hits the pins, deflect properly through those pins. And so many of the things that we talk about in the Bowl U workshops have to do with building those skills, whether it's recognizing them or whether it's being able to master a physical skill to deal with the transition as it happens.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV. Another good group of bowlers at the Rapids Bowling Center, and which one of these 4 gentlemen will be there? It may be Tim, Tyler, Pat Brick, or Rob Stefani. We'll find that out over the next 45 minutes or so. And right now, we're in a really good match, separated by 1 pin between Tim and Tyler.
This is where, when you're getting down into the last couple frames of a game, you really are wanting to pay attention to where you're at as far as count. Being that it's only 1 pin, I'm sitting here and I'm Tyler and I'm thinking, you know what, I got a strike here is very important because I'm on a spare and I don't want to lose any account, and I want to keep that pressure on Tim, who is also on a spare.
You heard Tyler say too much when he just threw that. What do you think he meant? And I'm sure he didn't mind that too much meant still got himself a strike.
Yeah, I think he thought that he pulled it a little bit too much to the right, and fortunately it held there. That was a great answer by Tim. That was a pretty good shot there.
Boy, these guys are going at each other, aren't they?
Actually, this is the mentally toughest that I've seen Tim. I mean, Tim is always a good bowler, but he just has that extra grit to him today that has come from, I'm sure, experience and bowling the show a number of times and being in this position, but I see a difference in his intensity.
Well, Tim has been involved with the whole Bowl U process over the last 3 or 4 years, and I think Tim's biggest challenge is believing that he can do it. He certainly can. I mean, you've seen him qualify for a number of shows. He doesn't have a problem by getting to the show. It seems like when he gets on the show, he doesn't have the ability to stay in that moment and stay committed to that shot without thinking of the previous ones, whether it be an errant shot or the next shots, oh my gosh, I got a strike here.
I think he's
type of
definitely
things.
made strides.
He certainly has.
yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it in the last couple of shows here. It looks great.
So no matter what happens here, I think he's going in the right direction, and that should be a positive for him. Because I didn't know any of that, and I noticed it. So I saw it. And as far as Tyler goes, when he thought he pulled that shot a little bit, we all have a spot where if you're going to make a little bit of an error, it's going to be conducive to your game to make that. And for Tyler, I think because of his ball speed, it's better for him to pull it a little bit, to miss a little bit right.
It sure is.
27 years old, native of Cheektowaga, now lives in Kenmore. Operations department at Lawley Insurance is the full-time occupation for Tyler
Big
Molina.
shot.
And today the full-time duties have been knocking most of those pins down. That is his sixth strike of this match as he heads to the 10th frame. 222 average for Tyler right now, which he says is a little bit down because he hasn't been bowling quite as much as he normally does. Has his dad Jeff here cheering him on at Brad Angelo Lanes. So Tyler Molina looking for a 15th win here on Beat the Champ.
Well,
And
this is
that
a
will
pretty
be determined
crucial.
over the next couple of frames.
This is a crucial shot right here. This shuts out Tim, so this guarantees him a win if he gets the strike here. Tyler's at 238 pace, and Tim can still strike out for 239. So Tyler gets this one, he's in the 240s, and the match is over.
So let's see what happens. A critical 10th frame for Tyler Molina.
This has been a day of wacky things happening.
I can't even believe it.
I hope you
can
heard
you
the
throw
crowd. The
that
crowd
hard?
reaction told you everything you needed to know.
Do you remember Jeremy Zimmerman going on that streak and having everything just be going his way? It's almost like we're seeing that for Tim.
So, an open frame. An open frame.
I'll
in the
allow
10th.
it this time. I'll overlook it.
Boy, Tyler Molina was just cruising, and he winds up with the 224, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough.
Well, Tim
Wow.
just needs decent count and a spare, and then decent count after that. So
Right.
if Tim gets this strike, it's pretty much over.
And there's
Yep,
the
and then
strike.
that's that.
So you're right, Sue. You nailed it. You got to need a little luck in this sport sometimes too, and sometimes you can bowl well, really well, not so well, but you sometimes need your opponent to be a little less than that sometimes.
It's almost strange though. It's time after time after time. That,
Hey, and and good for Tim because he had lost his first 5 matches here on the show, so now he's won 3 in a row, and all that luck sort of balances it out. Somewhere along the line, you might have to take a couple of those tough gut punches before you get to celebrate a little.
You know, I'll tell you what, too, when you happen to get a win like this, or the way that he did last week against Gary Kenyon, it has a calming effect to you that, you know what, hey, listen, I'm not out of it. I'm
right?
still in this.
You begin to believe.
Sure.
So Tim Finken is going to win, and it's an impressive victory, his 3rd in a row, and he finishes strong with 3 consecutive strikes. Good job by Tim Finken to post a 239 and a victory, and he'll move on to take on Pat Brick in our next match. We'll talk to Tyler about a very difficult finish to that match when we return. It's Beat the Champ at Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport. We're back right after this. Well, Tyler, this is a wonderful game. I know you've devoted a good part of your life to it, but it can be a little aggravating and frustrating sometimes, and I'm sure you're going to tell me that's what just happened.
Yeah, on 19, the ball was, if I was getting it in, it was holding a little bit. I pitched that out one where I wanted to, and left a 7-9, which I don't do very often, so you hope at least one of those falls, but hey, you know, that's bowling. Gary did it last week with pocket 710 on 19 actually. So that lane is not our friend. That's all I gotta say.
Gotcha. Well, it's good to have you back on the show, and please tell your lovely wife that whenever you guys do decide to add your family, Sue's going to be the first one with the baby shower gift.
Of course, yes.
She owes that to you, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Brad?
You know, I have to tell you, after the way you smashed the pins in the shot before that over there, I radioed down to our mechanic and told him to put the heavier pins in. I didn't know he was going to put them on the 7 and the 9 like that, so I apologize.
Too. At least wait till the second shot, right?
I know. But anyways, thank you. Thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for coming out and supporting our event.
Of course.
All right, always good to get Tyler Molina on the show. Hopefully we continue to see more of them. We got another good match coming up. We'll get you ready for match number 2 when we return to Brad Angelo Lanes. More Beat the Champ right after this. Can Tim Finken keep the winning streak alive? He's won 3 in a row. He'll try to make it 4 over Pat Brick, and we'll talk about Pat in just a moment because Tim is going to start things off, and that was an impressive performance in the last match at 239. You know, again, who knows how much pressure he puts on Tyler Molina to force the mistake that Tyler makes to cost him that match. But Tim's bowling very well right now.
Absolutely.
And he tends to get off to those good starts as well, too. So the 34-year-old from Depew is on a nice little run here. So here's Pat Brick, certainly one of the notable names that we have on our show on a regular basis, making his 9th appearance here on Beat the Champ, 8 wins, 5 losses. Haven't seen Pat in a little while. Last time we caught him was at Allie Brant Lanes back in July when he was the victim of Jason Siliberto's 300 game.
Hard to beat that one.
Yes, no matter how well you bowl. How speaking of which, that brings up a question. How often has there been 2 300 games head to head?
I don't know if there ever has been on television.
No, I mean, is, you know, just thinking that, you know, Pat could have bowled the 299 and lost, so how often do things like that happen?
Well, I'll tell you what, I know that it was done at least once, and I know that because a good friend of ours, Tom Baker, did
legendary
that
Buffalonian
against Pete Weber in match play, I believe in Denver. During their round robin match play, they tied 300 to 300.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they have to split the bonus pins, I'm sure.
And they had to each get 15 bonus pins. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that just kind of popped into my head. Like, how often has that ever happened? And sounds like it's pretty rare.
And we're probably then talking about a time when it wasn't as, it didn't happen as often, and certainly on a PBA condition, it doesn't really, that's very rare.
Oh, sure, and then, like as Brad said, in a TV PBA setting, probably incredibly rare. So Pat Brick strike spare in the first 2 frames, and Tim Finken after that strike in frame number 1, looking to add to his 3-match winning streak here. He will line up on lane number 20 for frame number 2.
So a little bit of the chit-chat I heard back there was that both of the, I don't want to say mistakes, but both of the errant shots that caused Tim to win his matches were on lane 19. So they're telling him that lane 19 is his friend because, but it seems like that lane has a little higher concentration of oil in the middle. So if you get the ball into it, the ball tends to lose its energy and leave those pocket splits, like we saw Gary Kinning leave the pocket 710 and the pocket 7-9 for a left-hander is also, you know,
there you go, the curse of lane 19.
Oh.
So it's not all just bad luck. There's always a reason for everything, isn't there? There's Janelle Saban and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Early results from this one between Tim Finken and Pat Brick, and now it's Tim with a rather interesting challenge here. And he'll get 2, and it'll be an open in the 3rd frame for Tim Finken. He has been able to overcome a few open frames throughout this winning streak, but it'll be the 51-year-old from Tonawanda, Pat Brick's challenge to not let that happen again. course, so many honors and titles to be won, to have been won and rattled off for Pat Brick, of course, already.
Right.
Just another Hall of Famer. Everybody around here is a Hall of Famer. You know, I feel very intimidated. You know, everywhere you turn, there's a Hall of Famer hanging around Brad Angelo Lanes.
You know, just so you know, you can get in for meritorious service, so you can get in for that.
All right. Hey, so there's
For your service to the
there's
bowling
hope
community.
then. You're telling me there's hope for me. So that would be an incredible honor if that ever got to that point, but not worried about. I'm more enjoying hanging around all you Hall of Famers and learning what I can from all of you guys and gals. Two strikes and a spare so far for Pat Brick.
Oh,
Nice
as I
little late
watch
fall on
Pat
the
Brick,
7.
As I watch Pat Brick ball, he has not changed in 30 years since I've known him. The first time I ever saw
Called the
Pat
Kenyon
Brick,
method.
The first time I ever saw Pat Brick ball was at a Frank Cassio's tournament that was over at Suburban Lanes, which used to be right inside the Boulevard Mall.
Right.
And he looks the same right now, and I guess I haven't watched him that closely in a while, but he looks the same as he did that day.
It is uncanny, isn't it? And I'll bet everybody says that about you as well. And I've noticed that from, you're still busy bowling the tour, but I've noticed from watching some of the senior events that Jack, Tommy Baker, Pete Weber, Amaletto, they look the same.
Yeah, they all look the same. It's amazing. I mean, as I said, though, we all have bigger pants and we all have a little more gray hair. But other than that, sometimes we all wear the same shirts as we did back then. Now, both of those
Well, that's
shots on that lane got
yep.
to the left.
It's 19. It's the curse of 19.
The curse of 19. After you gave lane 19, saying, "Oh, that was Tim Finken's best friend," it's turning up.
I don't know if it's about Tim Finken or just about making us be wrong, because so far everything that we've said has been counteracted.
That's the exact same leave that he left that was there in the third frame, and so it's opens in 3 and 5 on the exact same leave on 19 for Tim Finken. Well, to your point, Brad, I think the reason you rattled off some of the greatest names in bowling in Western New York, and I think they are the greatest names in bowling because they're still doing it the same way over 20, 25, however many years.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
still, knees, hips, shoulders, all those things that you would
Eyes,
think.
ears, mouth, and nose. I think we're singing a song now.
No. This isn't about anatomy. This is about things that seem to break down as you get older, that these guys are still with their backswings just as high. This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
And then remember, the top qualifier in the round of 24 heading into the roll-off wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. So you may be a little late to get in on the show this month, but we're headed back to the Rapids for next month. So we'll have those dates for you. Make sure you stay on top of the Facebook page and the Twitter feed for all the information that you need to know to be a part of our next series of tapings here on Beat the Champ. 6th frame for Tim Finken. Correction, seventh frame. Too busy yapping over here to keep up on my scorecard. All I had to do was just look at the Castellone scoreboard, and Janelle would have kept me up to date. So,
Did he make a ball change there, Brad?
I don't think he did. I think he just made a better shot. The two that led to splits, he definitely got them to the left a little earlier than I think he wanted to, and they ended up seeing that friction too soon and jumped right through the nose. Pat Brick is playing a little tighter line with a little bit more speed, so I would say he certainly has an advantage.
Pat's 51 years old from Tonawanda, 230 average, full-time occupation as a pharmacy tech at Upstate Pharmacy. And of course, bowls all over Western New York in leagues and lanes, you name it, any night, anywhere he can. One of the all-time great bowlers here in Western New York is Pat Brick. feel like I say that a lot because it's a long list of all-time great bowlers in this town, which says everything you need to know about the sport in Western New York.
He looks good right now, though. He looks real solid. His timing looks really, really good.
Yeah, Pat's been bowling pretty well for the last 31 years that I can remember.
He might argue with you a day or two out of all of that, but
I was bowling against Pat in a tournament down in Rochester a couple years ago, and I got up in the 10th frame, and I needed a strike to be able to shut him out. And I tell you, I threw one of the best shots of my life, and I was fortunate enough to carry a Brooklyn, and he shook my hand and did his normal, all right, great bowling, and that was it.
good sportsman.
So I don't know if he's kept that in the back of his mind and is going to come and get me one of these days or not. I don't know if we ever bowl each other, but
Well, you didn't try to go Brooklyn. I think every bowler knows that you don't try to do it.
oh no.
3 in a row now for Tim Finken. He's trying like heck to overcome those 2 opens he had on the front set of on the front frame. So he's doing his best to keep the heat on Pat Brick, but Pat's got 2 in a row himself.
Pat's almost at the point where good count.
Well, he still needs a mark.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
definitely marks.
He needs mark to be able to shut out Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll leave the 7 pin, so he'll play for the spare here in the 9th frame. Winner of this match will take on Rob Stefani in our final match of the week here at Brad Angelo Lanes. Spare for Pat. What do we got planned for our next week's show, Brad? What do you got scheduled for our fun exhibition episode?
We have, Michelle and I decided that we wanted to honor my father, Nin Angelo, and so we decided that we would have a in-house tournament for our league bowlers, as well as any of the youth bowlers around the Western New York area. So we had a number of them come in and qualify. They will be bowling for the first Nin Angelo Memorial Trophy. And we have that plaque that'll be housed here at the lanes underneath the Beat the Champ photo of my dad and Chuck Healy.
Great.
And so the top 2 adult bowlers, they will be bowling, and then the top 2 youth bowlers will be bowling, and the winner of each of those matches will bowl for the winner of that.
Great. All right, that'll be next week's show, so make sure you stick around. That's going to be a lot of fun, and anytime we can reminisce a little bit about the great Nin Angelo, that's always fun to do as well too. I'll save it for next week, but I'll tell you the story about the first time I ever had a chance to meet your dad. We'll do that on next week. It sticks with me. It was pretty cool very early on in my career here. So we do know that we have a winner in this match, and it's going to be Pat Brick. So Pat was able to continue to be consistent enough, and a couple of those tough frames for Tim, and it's Pat Brick that ends the winning streak of Tim Finken. So it'll be Brick versus Stefani in our final match. We'll talk to Tim, and we'll get you ready for that match when we return to Brad Angelo Lanes right after this. I don't take it personally, but when you are disappointed to have to stand next to me, that means things didn't go so well, did they?
Well, I got to put it off a week or so. So it was good. I got to win some matches, so it was a little different. It was good.
Yeah, that similar 4-6-10 leave twice on the first 5 frames over on 19. How did it happen, and what was your reaction?
I had a little bit of room to left early on, and it dried up, and I hit the same spot twice. I moved the second time and still hit it, so my fault for not getting in and getting away from it. But.
All right, well, it was a nice 3-match winning streak for Tim Finken. I know that gives you a lot of confidence to get you back here and come hang out with us a little bit more. Not with me necessarily, though.
It was a nice little run. I'm proud to be able to give this to you, be able to help pay for some new shoes for Christmas time for Shelby.
Definitely.
Thanks for coming out, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. It was a great
All
time.
right, good to have Tim Finken on here. We got one more match before we wrap up this week's show. It'll be Rob Stefani and Pat Brick. Stick around. That's coming up next on Beat the Champ. Match number 3 features Pat Brick and Rob Stefani. Final match of the run here at Brad Angelo Lanes, because we'll have our fun exhibition show coming up next week. So the winner of this match will advance to the Rapids Bowling Center in 2 weeks to pick up 9 new qualifiers. So will it be Rob or will it be Pat? We will find out. And you're already seeing a little strategy going on here, aren't you, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that they're a little inconsistent reaction there on 19 is causing the bowlers to want to stay away from it, and Pat moved himself to the second position to not have to finish on 19.
Any more inconsistent on lane 19 and somebody's going to walk out there with a stick of dynamite.
Well, it's how they break down. In this case, it's a little touchier, a little more oil in the middle, maybe closer to wet dry.
Well, based on what Tim Finken had said, that the 19 was starting to have that little hook spot. So he said by the time he moved in, it was a little bit too little too late because Pat bowled so well. And as you see, Pat's starting out there with a strike. I think Pat has a great reaction, to be honest with you.
I do too.
I'm not too concerned. I think if he just does his job, as we've seen the right side of the lane with the people that were playing straight, carry was an issue, as well as there's that oil down lane from earlier in the day that I think could pose some problems. So
right, where speed matters too, because
of course
Tyler had a little too much speed because he kind of hydroplaned through the oil in the middle of the lane when he got it in. Pat's a little bit, I would not say soft speed, but a little softer speed, let the ball do the work.
Well, Pat has more of that touch and feel that we were talking about in one of the previous shows, about how important it is. You know, it doesn't look like he's doing anything different, but when the ball comes off his hand, you can see, wow, that is different, and he's trying to make it different for a reason.
So let's see what Rob, the 34-year-old from Batavia, has ready for Pat Brick here. We've got strikes across the board, and almost that time. I think Rob thought he was going to get that one. So, hey, so this is our final regular competition show of 2018. We'll have our fun show next week, and then we'll roll into the Rapids Bowling Center for 2019, so we can sort of crown our 2018 co-champions. So the most wins in the calendar year of 2018 on our show, we had a tie. Chuck Jagosinski and Mike Zarcone both won 11 matches, and those are the guys who are actually first and second in most wins since the show was started 3 years ago. But those two guys each with 11 wins in the year 2018, and then you had two guys right behind them who each had 7-match winning streaks. That would be Pete Maduri and Jason Siliberto with 7. So those are our top guys for the year of 2018 here on Beat the Champ, and we'll see exactly which ones are going to be the tops for 2019 starting in 2 weeks.
Right, and they supported the tournament very well, and they both did have outstanding years, because it's not easy to make this show as often as they made this show. I mean, it was very rare we didn't see one of them on for the month, and we're only taking 9 bowlers, so they've got themselves to the top there almost every single month.
Yep, and we had Chuck Jagosinski here at Brad Angelo Lanes a couple of weeks ago. You saw him rattle off a couple of wins, and you know, again, there's a reason those two guys are the two best on this show, because they're pretty much two of the best in this town, aren't they?
And very different games.
Very different games, but that goes back to what we were saying before. Just because it looks different doesn't mean they're not dealing with transition and having to repeat what they're trying to do. Two of the best and have been for quite some time here in Buffalo.
Somewhere along the line, this was my brilliant idea, and we'll work on this, maybe to do like a Tournament of Champions kind of event at the end of the year with our top winners in the given year, or maybe the overall top 2 guys from the whole run versus the top 2 guys from the year. So that might have been, we could have done something fun. It could have been Jagosinski and Zarcone versus Siliberto and Maduri, that, you know, something like that. Well, we're always trying to come up with cool ideas to make this a fun show, and maybe that's something we'll think about, a little bit of an annual championship here every year. So,
well, personally, I would love to see Pete Maduri on any show, because he's just such a comic, such a comedy act, and such a cool guy. So I'm in for anything that involves Pete Maduri.
Yeah, and by the way, because we haven't officially said it, we know Christmas is coming up in a couple of days. Certainly we wish everybody out there, all the bowling fans of Western New York, a great holiday season with your friends and your family. Enjoy it. We spared no expense for decorations here on the set of Beat the Champ this year. So look at, there you go. We had it planted right in front of Brad's face when we started.
Right
so
there, and it can,
there you go.
can frame everything. How's that?
There you go. So Pat Brick starts with 3 consecutive strikes. He'll look to grab a spare here, and he does in frame 4. Rob Stefani started strike, spare, and open, so Rob will have a little work to do for himself here. And Rob, it's funny, this is second appearance for Rob on the show. He lost the only other time he was here, and that was a year, literally almost exactly a year ago, when we were in Batavia, which is where Rob is from, and he lost his match to Dana Vojtovic. So he noted that it's kind of ironic that exactly a year later, he's back on the show in the same final qualifying position on the last show, and he says he's really enjoyed getting out and qualifying for the show. Matter of fact, he sort of threw a challenge out to his other Genesee County bowlers that, hey, get out and be a part of the show. Qualify. You get to go to different places. You get to meet new people. You get to challenge yourself in different conditions in different bowling centers. So Rob is really enjoying being a part of the show, and we're glad we could have him on as well, too. Just like when we went to Salamanca or Bradford and Fredonia and Jamestown, we get to see different core group of bowlers. We may not have been back in Batavia this year, but that doesn't mean the Batavians can't make the short drive west over here and try to compete for the spots on the show. There's Janelle Sabin in the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, giving you an early look at this match. So a good bounce back for Rob with the 2 strikes.
We had a handful of the Rochester bowlers come in. So there was 5 or 6 people from Rochester that came in. So shout out to those of you from Rochester that came. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we've started to become noticed a little bit outside of Western New York, outside of the Buffalo area, and people that want to challenge themselves and want to take the opportunity to try to be on TV as well too. So. Hey, we've already gone international, right? We had a couple Canadian bowlers on this year. We've already crossed state lines with our trip down to Bradford. So, we're just the beginning of our world bowling domination here on Beat the Champ. The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Right, and that's why we need Brad around, because he knows the ins and outs of the world domination when it comes to bowling centers in Dubai and Egypt, and I know you've in Asia. I know you bowled a lot in Asia as well too, right?
I've been very fortunate. Bowling has taken me to many parts of the world, and the neat thing is that they still bowl from 60 feet away over there, and they still put up 10 sticks at the end of the lane. So. But it's been great to travel as much as I've been fortunate enough to, and then it's always nice to come back home and see friends and faces that you haven't seen for quite some time.
Speaking of friends, Rob has a good group of them here. Todd and Jen are here cheering him on, along with their 3-month-old Peyton. You can see him right there behind Rob, and we're getting Peyton started early with her love of the sport of bowling. Look at it, she's into it. Look at, she's got her eyes cheering on Rob there, doesn't she?
She's tiny.
Always great to see people come and cheer on their friends and family, and crowds have always been terrific here. Well, that was a difficult leave there for Rob, because he knows that Pat Brick's throwing up a lot of strikes here.
Yeah, Pat's got a 25-pin leading going in this shot right here. So important spare.
And don't forget, we're 2 weeks from now, we'll move on to the Rapids Bowling Center, where our lineup is almost all set. It'll be set tonight. or I'm sorry, it's Sunday, depending on when you're watching this. So we'll have our lineup all set, but we're going to go back to the Rapids Bowling Center the following month. So that's your next chance to qualify for the show. And don't forget the top qualifier in the round of 24 wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. 8th frame now for Pat Brick. Or correction, 7th.
Pat looked like the U.S. gymnastic team there, and he saved that shot pretty well. And
Good plant, good plant.
I think we could have a strictly a beat the champ tournament based on who has the best body English at the end of the lanes, trying to coax those pins to get where they need to go.
Leaving that one alone.
I was going to say, I don't know what language my body speaks, but it certainly isn't English.
Okay, back to the bowling now. And there's a strike in the 8th. That's 4 in a row for Pat Brick.
No problem with that.
There's your updated Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. An impressive performance here by Pat Brick. Just the one spare in the 4th frame to anything other than a strike. Make sure you join us for next week's show. As Brad pointed out, we're going to have a little bit of fun with some of his league bowlers, both kids and adults, and then we'll crown a champion in the first annual Nin Angelo Memorial Tournament here at Brad Angelo Lanes. That'll be on next week's show. Ooh, and they're speaking a little body English. Rob needed to wave that one over there a little bit.
So the proprietors, which do sponsor this show, is having a youth holiday tournament that's going to run all the way through to December 30th. And there's qualifiers over at Manor 2 on Tonawanda Creek Road, but you can come here. There's flyers over here to get more information or call here. But there's up $2,000 in scholarship money that's available, which is, very helpful to kids going to school.
Absolutely. So, yeah, check in if you're interested in having your son or daughter be a part of that. Give them a call over at Manor 2. They'll have all the details for that as well also. Another spare for Rob here in the 9th frame. Pat Brick will try to add to his 4 in a row as he is on his way to a victory. So it'll be 2 in a row for Pat Brick, and he will advance to the Rapids Bowling Center and won't get the strike there, but it's still enough for Pat Brick to come up with the win over Rob Stefani. We'll come back and talk to both guys and get you ready for our fun 4th show and look ahead a little bit to a couple of weeks at the Rapids Bowling Center when we all return here to Brad Angelo Lanes. More Beat the Champ right after this. .247 to 201. It's a win for Pat Brick over Rob Stefani. That's exactly almost a year to the date that you've been on the show 2 years in a row. We don't want to wait another year for you.
Hopefully not. I feel like I threw better this time, but Pat's a heck of a bowler, so it was a great honor to have a match with him on TV anyways.
You threw out a little challenge to your fellow Genesee County bowlers to get them get on the hop on the thruway and get over here.
Plenty of them out there. They just don't like to travel, so hopefully that changes their minds.
Well,
so
maybe you'll be a little inspiration to them to get out here and
hopefully.
try to get on the show. Brad?
Rob, great job. It was nice to have you. Thanks for coming in and supporting what we do. Those of you out in Batavia, it's really not that far. Come on, get a grip. Follow your buddy out here and help support what the proprietors are trying to do in Buffalo here.
Right.
So, Rob, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Great
Appreciate
job.
it.
Rob says he'll pick up anybody anytime they want just to come out here and bowl.
carpool.
So, right, Sue?
Pat, the way lane 19 broke down seemed to be the story of the lanes here at Brad Angelo, sorry. And you made a decision here to change where you started, right?
Yeah, I mean, on this run of shows, there were a few more lefties than you might normally see. That may or may not have had something to do with it. But I just, it was hooking like 3 or 4 more, so I just tried to make a ball change and do some tricky hand position changes, and it wasn't my best performance, but it got the job done.
But you also chose to not finish on that lane for that reason, right?
Yes, I already knew what to expect, and I figured making the ball change that I made on that lane, I figured it was going to be enough to get me through, and I was lucky enough to. I got a couple good breaks, though.
Well, it's all part of the game, and great bowling today.
Thank you.
Well, we know we're going to have at least a run of at least one lefty, because we know we're going to see Pat Brick in 2 weeks when we move this whole thing up the road, down the road, across the road over there here in Niagara County at the Rapids Bowling Center. Sue and I will come back and wrap up this show, get you ready for a really fun 4th show next week when we return to Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport. More of Beat the Champ right after this. We had a lot of lefties on this show, as you mentioned, and I'm starting to think about it. We had maybe more lefties among the 10 bowlers than we've had in a long time. How do you think that affected what we saw the last 3 weeks?
Well, that's how it started out the month, saying that was going to be what we saw. We were going to see what the righties normally see, which is having to figure out to make moves a lot faster. And, you know, at the end of the day, Pat was the one to do that, but he came in late. So he'll have a new task next month because it won't be the same condition.
Right.
And there won't be as many left-handers, maybe.
Yep.
And but yeah, it matters. This is what happened to right-handers all the time.
Darn lefties, right? Yeah.
Well, now they know how we feel.
So Pat Brick will be back in 2 weeks at the Rapids Bowling Center against a whole new group of challengers. Next week, we're going to have some fun here at Brad Angelo Lanes, the Nin Angelo Memorial Tournament. Youth bowlers versus adult bowlers from the leagues here. Going to be very interesting, isn't it?
That's right, because we're at the end of the final match. We're going to have the youth bowler bowl against the adult bowler, not with them, but against them. So
all right.
They're going to get handicapped, so it will make a little bit of a difference, but they're going to take on the adults.
Yeah, all right, maybe the student versus the teacher challenge will come up here. So that'll all be a part of next week's show when Sue and Janelle and myself bring you our final week stay here at Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport. We'll see you next week on Beat the Champ.